welcome to the PvP event for intro to gearing up into for arena and rated battlegrounds. Essentially, the first thing you want to do is start getting some gear that actually makes it so that you can, compete in PvP even for regular battlegrounds. Unfortunately, the gear system in Shadowlands is not the best, so there's some tricks to getting geared up um, as fast as possible while still being able to compete and not having to worry so much about surviving and just getting ganked until you have enough gear, which is really a nightmare. So the first thing you want to do is actually some PvE stuff, unfortunately, but it is what you have to do. um, you want to go actually find your covenant. Hopefully you've already hit 60. You probably already have your covenant. For me, you'll see that I'm Venthyr. I've picked, gone to Revendreth for mine. And go through essentially your whole campaign. So, you can bring it up and you'll see I've gone through all my chapters. And once you finish all your chapters, throughout that time, you're going to unlock the gear for that particular um, whatever covenant, right? So, and that gear starts at really low level, but what you want to do is make sure you do not get rid of that gear and don't just replace that gear with other gear because it's a higher item level. And I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if you look at my inventory, I have all this Dread Sentinels gear, which is the gear from Revendreth from doing the campaign and the quest. Once the campaign ends, they give you a few other items. But if you go through and you do the whole campaign, you'll get pretty much an entire set of gear. Now, this is not PvP gear, but what it does, a lot of it does have, is well, I guess maybe Revendreth does not.
You can't raise your PvP item gear until you do that quest. That's the thing.
Yeah,
PvP gear you cannot be raised until your covenant is completely completed.
yeah, so that's one of the things. First thing you will get is a whole gear set that you can use. And I don't know if I don't see that Revendreth does have versatility on their gear.
Some of that gear will have versatility though. So
Yeah,
you
like
want to wait for
Maldraxxus
them that
does.
have versatility first.
Yeah, you'll see that the Bladesworn has versatility on it, and a lot of it does. But that's what you need to look for. Is really what you want is versatility because it gives you survivability in the battlegrounds. And so once you go through that, you'll get your renown level with your covenant, and you want to get your renown maxed out as soon as possible because that makes a big difference. It gives you ability to upgrade your gear, which I'll go into in a minute, and it also gives you access to your conduits, which is a big boost to being able to perform in battlegrounds. But once you do hit a certain renown, like let's say you've hit in 24, 25 even, or ideally you've maxed out your renown, then you can come to, there's a vendor in your covenant, whichever covenant you're with, or you can come to Oribos, and right next to the PvP vendors here on the map, you'll see this vendor right here, this aggressor Zodash, and he has the option to upgrade gear. And a lot of people don't know about this, and this is why part of the reason I wanted to make this video and really make it clear is that you can upgrade your gear. So let me take one of these pieces and just give you an example. Let's take the helm here. You'll see that up at the top of my, and I'll highlight this in the recording, but at the very top you'll see item level 171, upgrade level 3 out of 7. You can upgrade each piece of gear up to 7 times, which will bring it to an item level of 197, which is a lot higher than the 171 it is now. And for each level up or upgrade level you do, you will get, it'll increase the stats of that piece of gear pretty substantially. That's where it makes a big difference between level 1 and level 7, and why you might think this gear is useless, but once you've leveled it up, you'll see some of my 197 gear in here is really good. This is Covenant gear that I just ranked up, and it's really powerful, and it has a lot of versatility, which is really what you want for PvP. And all you do is click and drag and drop, and then you'll see here. So for PvE items, it's going to cost you reservoir anima. So the more anima you have, the better. So anyways, you can see the upgrades right here, right? Just from going from level 3 to level 4, it'll give you a +6 to your item level, and then basically all these stats are increased by this much. And it costs about 150 reservoir anima. So you want to do the world quests and really just rank all this stuff up as high as you can to 197. Once you have a full set, you will have, basically a lot of gear that you're able to use in PvP. You might not have a lot of versatility depending on the faction now that I'm looking at this, but it's still a decent amount. If it has versatility, you want this before you need to worry about honor gear, because honor gear takes a long time to upgrade, and it's still dependent on you being a certain renown level with your covenant. So that's the limit. And then here's what I was talking about. If you get your renown up, you'll start seeing what you can max your unrated PvP item level. So this is exactly what I meant. So now when you hit 22, this is when you're allowed to upgrade your unrated PvP gear up to rank 7. So until you hit level 22, you can't even upgrade all your PvP gear, and it's essentially useless because your Covenant gear is just going to be higher level. It probably has versatility and probably has more than what you're going to get from the Honor gear right away anyways. So it's just a much better way to start with the Covenant gear. So at least get to 22, and if you max out, you also, the reason you really want to max out though is so that you can unlock your conduits too. Out, you're not going to get quite as much anima, but it's pretty easy to grind out if you just find the world quests, and especially the ones that are like going to give you 250 if you join the group and knock those out. And let me see if I have one I can show. So let's see. I don't have any of the 250s right now, but this one right here, right, it's 140 in Maldraxxus. So I would probably come and do this quest and get 140 anima because it's a big amount. Sorry, I have a couple add-ons running for battle pets, but you should be able to see the note here. There's a lot of people who aren't aware that their renown affects how much they can level up their gear, and a lot of people aren't even aware that you can level up your gear at all because they don't really tell you. And I'll give you an example too of the PvP gear. So you'll see, like, this is the honor gear that you buy from the honor vendor. I'll drop this in. So this one costs honor, 500 honor to start to level from level 1 to level 2. And it increases in the amount of honor it costs to level it up. But you can bring this one all the way up to 197 as well. It just takes a lot of battlegrounds. And if you don't have any gear to, like, keep you alive in battlegrounds, you're just going to get basically wrecked the whole time. And it's not going to be very fun. It's not very useful. It just kind of becomes a hassle. When if you have your Covenant set maxed out, at least you have some survivability in PvP, and you can have a little more fun while you grind out more honor gear. And, for me, I'll show you, I'm still wearing a lot of the 197 PvE gear just because it has so much versatility. The equivalent in honor gear is the exact same. So it's not even worth it for me.
That's where it comes in with what pieces you want to get, which is really important, and which honor pieces you're buying first. You want to make sure that you're replacing the pieces without versatility first. Like,
yes.
For instance, bracers on my PvE gear don't have any versatility at all. So I would want to swap that out. That would be one of the pieces I would swap out first.
Yeah, exactly. You always want to get your versatility up, especially when you're new to Battlegrounds. You can start worrying about min-maxing your statistics and what's best for your class later, but getting versatility gives you survivability and allows you to do more damage or more healing depending upon what you're doing regardless. So that is where you want to start. Get some gear so that you can survive. I think weapon is not a bad way to go when weapon is a really good thing to buy with your PvP gear. And that's what I was going to go into next, is what to buy with honor when you're ready to buy honor gear. So if you do
So a very
that,
important piece too is you would want to start off with that one piece, that trinket that stops the impair. It's really key to be able to stop CC.
yeah, that's what I'm going to go into right now is the trinket. So let me. Okay, so this is the honor vendor here in Orbos, right, where you can buy your honor gear. So if I look at him, what you want to first see is if you look at any of these trinkets, you'll notice this set bonus, and I'll highlight that in the recording too. But you'll notice the setting, the damage and healing benefit of versatility is increased by 40% when in arenas. So one of the first things you want to do is get your your two trinkets for PvP because they're going to give you a 40% increase to your versatility, which is huge. So even if they're low item level, like this is 158, you still want the two PvP trinkets because of the boost that they give you to your versatility. And then the first one you always want to go for is this Sinful Aspirants Medallion because what it does is it gives you this removes all movement and pairing effects, which have cause loss of control. It is a 2-minute cooldown, but you put it on your skill bar and you get CC. You can pop that to get out of a CC, especially when you're a class that does not have a lot of break CC resources. It's pretty much key. I still use it even when I'm doing Conquest Gear in general, just being able to have an extra CC break is pretty crucial. And then one thing you'll notice is it is I know I have some Discord overlay here in the way, but it is
So
a
what I was
unique.
trying to get out with the trinkets is that basically it doesn't show you a big increase on your percent in your character page is what I'm trying to get at. You're not going to
Yes.
see that when you get both your trinkets. So don't get confused that it's not working because it is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, don't think this is going to be and you'll even with the lower item level, it's better to have the lower item level with the trinkets and not worry about it because the thing is the first thing I mean you can always replace it with the conquest gear. It doesn't cost very much with the conquest tokens, but really it just is not a huge difference because there's no versatility. It's only your primary stat, which is nice to have an increase to your primary stat, but a lot of the other pieces will give you primary stat, secondary stat, versatility, crit, haste, whatever else it'll give you a group of stats, whereas this is just one specific stat it's giving you. It's mostly about that 40% boost for your versatility and the benefit that comes with the trinket, the usefulness, which is for this one, like I said, removing the impairment effects. And then these you'll see there's multiple pages. These first three you can only pick one of these three and then one of, so that's why I always say get the Sinful Aspirants Medallion. And then since it's unique, you'll have to go to the second page and there's the other three trinkets and you can have one of these. You can't have two of these remove duration loss of control ones. Any of the ones that are you'll see it's unique equipped gladiator medallions. So you can only have one gladiator medallion. And all three of these are those. So that's why I recommend the aspirants. And then you can only have one of the other trinkets. Actually, you might be able to have two of these, but I wouldn't. You definitely want one of the break CC trinkets.
Yes, and if you're heavy CC in battlegrounds, expect somebody to be using that trinket against you for the first CC. So expect that before, don't just CC then expect them not to break it. It's a
Yeah,
2-minute cooldown.
exactly. That's why you want to kind of force people to use that trinket.
Yeah, exactly. You want to bait them to use that.
And then that way you don't have to use yours, or you can use yours at the right time. If they use it for the wrong attack and then you stun them with a harder stun, they're stuck in it, and that's what you really want them to be
That's what we're
doing.
trying to get at.
Yeah, and then so the next thing is, you can pick one of these, and these are just going to be a boost to, like, this one is a use you can increase to your main, and then increases primary stat if you use it, increases maximum health if you use it, and then this one is just an equip. You don't have to actually use it like a skill. It's just your passive as a passive ability that increases your chance to increase your primary. Now, I will say for this, right, the big goal here is to get that set bonus. So you can pick any one of these three, and it'll get you that set bonus. Um, for if you want to worry about what is the best for you, for me personally, I like to use the one that is an equip because I don't have to worry about an extra skill and I know it will just randomly proc. It is not the stronger generally. A lot of times the stronger one is actually this aspirant's badge of ferocity, the one that you use and you can proc it when you want to use it, but it is another skill you have to worry about. So what I generally recommend is just stick to the one that's passive until you're more comfortable PvPing with your class. If you want to switch later, then I would do it with your Conquest Gear, and then you can build it into your rotation and learn when to proc the primary stat, because it is a bigger boost. But it's I think it's a it does have a 1 minute cooldown, but I do think it is more beneficial overall. It's just a lot harder to keep in mind when you're thinking about all the other things that are going on in a battleground or in an arena. There's a lot to think about. So until you're comfortable, definitely just I say go with the passive. And then the other one is just increase to max health, which can be helpful for maybe a tank or maybe a healer that just wants to stay alive or give themselves a little less to worry about in a battleground, or maybe you're really squishy. But for me, I just don't use this one. I might use it if I was, like I said, a tank or a healer, but that's about it. And even then, I prefer to take the boost to whatever my skills are over just an increase in health. So yeah, that's pretty much what you want to do. Get those trinkets, get your covenant gear up, and then from there you can really start replacing your cut. Then what I recommend doing is buying one piece at a time, right? Maybe get, like you said, you bought your weapon, so buy your weapon because it gives you basically a bonus to all your stats. I know it shows negative for me because it's a lower item level, but it is a huge boost. So I would say next go for your weapons and just buy one and then upgrade it all the way to 197 before you buy another piece of gear. I would not waste time buying all your pieces of gear and then slowly upgrading them because you're already going to have gear from your covenant stats. Buy a piece, upgrade it all the way. Buy another piece, upgrade it all the way. You could alternatively go, instead of going to level 1 or level 7, go to level 5, and that does get you into epic. It'll turn the piece epic and you'll be at like 180 something, which is a decent if you want to kind of get each piece individually. I know that's a little confusing, but it does get you like more PvP gear faster. I just don't think it's necessary unless you're replacing gear that does not have versatility. Then do it. Then just get it to level 5 and then get the next piece to replace for versatility because you just want to get your versatility up.
Sometimes an easy way to get a versatility piece, once you're done doing your covenant and you get your gear level to 190, the world quest sometimes will drop gear that's 194 and it'll have good versatility, but you want to make sure it's replacing a piece of gear that doesn't have versatility.
Yeah, you got it. I'll talk about Conquest Gear real quick. The first thing you really want to do. So when you're buying Conquest Gear and you're starting out, uh, you are going to get some conquest as you're going through battlegrounds because each time you win, you get a small amount. So let's see, 40 conquest for random battlegrounds, 65 for epics. Maybe brawls give you 40, and skirmishes will give you like 15 a day. It's not very much. So as you're getting enough, what I like to focus on are the cheaper pieces. So like your back or the rings and neck pieces. Yeah, yeah, because they're really cheap. They're only like 525 each, and they give you a really big stat boost. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Your rings would also be very important as well.
Yeah.
You want to go with the pieces that you don't unlock in the covenant, or you probably haven't got with your honor gear already.
Exactly. And the other thing is, right, I mean, you can save up for like your weapon and it is a big boost, but really in the time it takes you to get both your rings and your neck piece, it'll
you're
take
not
you.
gonna get as big of a boost.
Yeah, you're gonna get a bigger boost faster from those than you are gonna get from your weapons. The weapons, like, they're really beneficial in the long run, and saving for them is definitely crucial. But because the difference between, like, if you bring your honor weapon from up to 197, the difference between 197 and the 200 weapon is so minuscule. It's not a lot. So until you have an arena rank that allows you to upgrade your conquest gear, which is something you can do with the right arena rank, it's just not really worth it to start out with. You're going to get way more benefit out of the neck piece and the rings, and the back piece probably as well. But maybe even bracers, things like any of those, like 525 pieces. If you can, like, replace your regular gear with those, it's going to be just a huge boost overall. And that's what I try to focus on first, just getting the highest level of stats I can as fast as I can, and then worrying about those bigger pieces later. A lot of people tend to go for those bigger pieces sooner, and I think that's a big mistake, because you're spending so much time with lower level gear and trying to grind out for this big weapon when you could have the stats which will make it a lot easier to grind out that weapon. So in the long run, you benefit a lot more from just doing it that way. Okay, at some point, once you're leveling up your covenant, you're gonna unlock your Forge of Bonds here, or the Forge of Bonds. And what the Forge of Bonds does is it basically gives you access to additional passive skills, and maybe that just improve your class overall. And some of these are set in stone and you can't change, and some of these are updated through conduits, which you can collect through world quests, through raiding, through the PvP vendors. What I recommend doing is just finding out what works best for you and collecting as many as possible as soon as possible, because the more you collect, the more options you'll have, and you'll learn what's best for your class. Um, most of them, a lot of good ones you can get just through world questing. You can see, if I look at my map here, I can go collect this one named Pest Removal, which just 7.8% of damage you deal adds to your active Ignore Pain, which is actually a pretty decent conduit. I should probably go collect that one. But the best thing to do is just collect as many as possible, get them the highest item level ones you can. Occasionally, you might want to buy the ones from Honor or Conquest, but focus on your Conquest gear first and get the ones from Honor. And because a lot of them you're just gonna get through world questing anyways. It's not really worth spending Conquest currency on unless you really need one that's gonna give you a really big boost, or alternatively, you just have used up all your conquest and don't have much else to spend it on. So at that point, then it's probably worth to go ahead and collect whichever one is most crucial for your class. Since I'm Revendreth and I'm a Fury Warrior, I focus a lot on Condemn and stacking Condemn, making it as strong as possible. And Mortal Strike helps as well, but since I am Revendreth or Venthyr, I focus a lot on my Condemn skill. So this is where you'll really want to start figuring out what is best for your class and what you want to do moving forward. And what I recommend doing essentially is, once you're getting to this point, you have your Covenant gear, you've unlocked your conduits, you're starting to be able to do battlegrounds and get into PvP more. Then you're going to want to really have an idea of what your spec and classes that you're playing. What I would do is just kind of look up some guides either on Wowhead or Icy Veins for your class and your spec, and look at your stat priority on there, and get the gear that matches that stat priority. We can go further into that later, maybe in a different video or training or something like that. But just to begin, or if you do have questions and want help, reach out to me or reach out to General Disarray, and we can help go through a lot of that stuff. But Also, you want to look at your stat priority. You want to look at kind of your base rotation, so you know what your skills really do in PvP. Also recommend just going through and reading every single one of your skills and looking for the PvP talents that are best for you. Now, the guides are really great for that, and they do help give you some direction. They're not always uh, the I mean, I think they're really good. I think there are some that are great, but that doesn't mean that you can't play to a different style and be just as good as you would be using one of those guides. I think they just give you some direction. So, um, I think, maybe you want to talk more about that, general disarray, and what you do compared to like what the guide for your classes on, Wowhead or Icy Veins do once you learned your class more.
Well, it's not. You're not always gonna be able to do what other people do, and your style's not always gonna mesh with other people's style. So, I wouldn't necessarily follow a guide far as like what to do in rotation when it comes to PvP. But I would definitely follow their stat guide and then their gear guide. They're pretty knowledgeable in that point. But you're not gonna just get out there and copy them right away because they had a lot of practice in their style. It doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna mess with your style. And what spec you want to pick, that's really up to you. I mean, that's your style.
Yeah, some people might say like one spec is better than another in PvP, and like to an extent, I think that's true. But I think you can be good with any class and any spec if you just put the time and work in and are good at the game in general. I know some of it's just skill and talent based. Um, a lot of people hate on Fury. I can play Fury very well in PvP as a warrior, but I'm arms just because it is a bit better right now. It's a bit easier to play, especially in arena, but that doesn't mean it's not a great spec. And don't if people are hating on it, don't listen to them. Play what fits you, because if you're happy and you're enjoying your class and your spec, you're gonna be better than if you're playing a spec you don't like. It's like when it comes down to it, do what makes you happy and just figure out how to play whatever spec you're playing really well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're really here to enjoy the game.